Gyepi evening message buns. It's Gyepi. We are finally back with bedtime stories. That is, horror bedtime stories for those that may not know just yet about them. If you are following my YouTube channel, you might be familiar already with this. It will be usually visual novel reading, horror themed. Hi Sime, hi, how are you doing? A Gyepi evening it is, as we are going to continue the recent title by ᴰᴏᴍᴍᴜ, which does feature animal mermaids and whatnot. Very interesting, I will say. I'm gonna put on the trigger warnings right away, so we do have them here. I don't really remember what kind of trigger warnings I did put last time, but I'm putting violence and graphic content, I guess. No, wait, it was violence and heavy topics. Heavy topics, violence. There we go, so that you are warned. Good, took an hour to do some boomer phone tech support to both my parents. No, goodness. You should find yourself some baba to whom you can pass on that kind of core as I do here when it comes to my family. I just call for baba and pretend to be doing something so he does take care of that stuff in my stead. Yeah. We took a bit of walk today and mainly got some hamburger meat discounted for dinner because we were lacking food for dinner once again. Goodness. But yeah. We're managing this time perfectly on point until I get some of my phones. Yeah, homemade burgers are so good. These were not homemade, but like the meat was fresh. I cannot speak today properly. It may be due to not speaking for like quite some long time, due to being on a semi-hiatus the past week. But still, I keep mixing words or just stutter today. And you can put whatever on them. Yeah. I really enjoy cooking from scratch myself as well. So I also do make like hamburgers once I can afford to make them, or just meatballs as well. Very nice. We're also managing to eat consistently meat plus veggies or fish plus veggies. Very nice. Almost no potato, almost no spaghetti and that kind of stuff. And also we're eating fruit and being hydrated. So I think we're doing pretty good, honestly. Coming to our little diet, like correcting the meals. You put some pickles on yours? No, not usually, but I do enjoy pickles. Why Baba doesn't like them at all. He hates them. But like Baba over time, he started enjoying food that he used to hate. Like broccoli, he discovered they're very good if made properly. Also, he used to hate most of fish. He started eating the one I started eating back when I didn't like fish that much. So like, it's kinda, I know how to guide him through enjoying the food that he hates. A lot of them pickles are probably the devil for him. Yeah. Maybe he's scared, you know, like the cats with zucchini thinking it's a snake. That may be why he hates pickles. Poor cat. Yeah. This evening was pretty comf. And I'm glad I managed to be here on time as well. We were looking at some pigeons that were eating some, like, how to call them, some berries that grow here locally on the trees. I was not really understanding what those pigeons were eating on those trees. I was thinking they were some sort of leaves with the little thingies you can make tea brew from. But no, it turns out they were some berries. But you had to see those pigeons, they were so funny. Because like the tree branches were so light and the pigeon was a bit like heavier. So they did quite some movements there to not fall down. It was weird, like, with the head down, the pigeon was trying to eat, or like opening the wings. It kind of looked like the pigeons were surfing, not gonna lie. It was funny and also cute. A nice little day. I believe tomorrow I should manage to go on my usual walk, where I take my route, where I walk like approximately an hour. Because today I didn't do it. My stomach is still so when I don't take those longer walks. It does help a lot when I do walk. My stomach is less stressful in those cases. I know pigeons are a bane around your parts you live. Or maybe I'm thinking on some other place. Second. Not me using Google Translator right now. Goodness. Oh, like you mean that people do hate them? Like, usually people do tend to see them as something dirty, perhaps, yeah. But I do like them as any other birdies. More like they are fed. I don't think so, not really. Usually I don't see people feeding them. But back at my grandparents', yeah. My grandma usually gives them the cone of the ice cream or something like that. And they tend to stick around. Yeah, I know what you mean. But usually here, perhaps maybe at the center of the cities where tourists go, there it is more common, yes. Like I'm in the countryside, but I live grand with ice cream cones. Yeah, my grandparents are pretty like lively. They even started lately to go on really long walks. My grandma got a lot better than she was before. Like, she was not doing that bad until she got prescribed some medications that ruined her health a lot. She gained so much weight, she was finding it difficult to walk, and that even increased her heart issues, the medication that she was given, which was not the medication she should have been getting. This was so messed up, but I'm glad, like, with some years passed since then, but she was still finding it very difficult to walk for longer distances and whatnot. But now every day she walks even longer than I do. They go to the beach, they go everywhere walking around, they send me pictures. My grandparents seem to be pretty happy right now, like living their holiday-like life. I don't know, pretty nice, honestly. And my grandma seems like so much sporty right now, like way more active than me. I'm the grandma here of my grandma. Oh my. So, we can switch to the game, I guess. I was very curious about this game, how this would continue, and all the different outcomes, so let's head there. Also, if I'm not mistaken, the audio from the game is not echoing, right? At least, it was not getting picked by my microphone when I view at Streamlabs. So if this is the case, it seems like I have put the filters so on point that it won't even be happening, the echo from the game being caught by the microphone. I'm so happy in that case, if it's really like that. There's the window, too tiny it is. Tiny. Okay. Okay. So, here we go. Okay. Should I set the audio of the game loader? I'm honestly very excited about these everyday streams I'm planning to host. I'm feeling quite goody and quite relaxing. If only the weather was not to be so hot. I'm even sweating while sitting down on a chair. But it's still okay, it's still okay. Like, I did read on the news, like I was hoping it's not true, but I think it will be true, that there are supposed to be 30 degrees for many months upcoming. I hope that won't be it. We're gonna see about that. Let's go. You enter the prince's bedroom and glance about. The room looks much the same as you remember it from the night prior, though the ceiling seems even higher when viewed in the one morning's light. You can see now that there are fewer shadows to impede your view how very opulent your young mistress abode is. Her armoire is large and imposing, as is the grate, in which you will be expected to keep a fire lit during the nights. The princess herself, meanwhile, is curled on her side beneath the sheets, looking rather less grandiose than her title would suggest. She is attired in a nightgown, adorned with frills, and her hair is split across her pillow like spilled gold. In her slender arms, meanwhile, held to her chest, is a doll, the very same one she was cosseting last night. No, the Bebe doll, the cursed Bebe, the ugly cursed Bebe. There we go. You suppose this doll must be her favorite. What a taste she got there. Idly you wonder what the doll's name is, though you do not suppose it matters all that much. It is time to wake your mistress. You call out to the princess, but she is largely unresponsive. Her eyelashes are still sewn tightly shut and her lips pursed in slumber. You purse your lips too and sigh. Well, nobody ever said your job would be easy. Once again, you call to the princess, and this time she replies. Her response is not a favorable one, however. She sighs, then turns away from you, her doll clutched to her chest. Just give me a little longer. The princess sounds so enfeebled, but you do not take pity on her. If you have learned anything from the conservatoire, save her for knowledge pertaining to the respiratory tracts of fish, it is that one must be cruel to be kind. You do not think this adage was practiced with any great success in the conservatoire, but perhaps it will have more of an impact upon the princess. You tell her once again to wake up. More sternly this time, you will not let her sleep, for she has slept long enough already. Sounds like Baba. It is very slovenly, really, to still be abed at such an hour. Defeated, the princess says. Alright, I can see that I can't twist you around my little finger. I'm up, you don't need to nag me. Once you have roused the princess from her bed and you have put her doll on one side, you set upon her toilet. You aid the princess in the brushing of her hair, a chore to which she submits willingly, like a cat might allow its fur to be brushed. You allow yourself to ponder, as you run the bristles of the princess' brush through her hair, how wonderfully soft it feels against your skin. But a curious query from the princess, "Are you alright, dear one?" brings you back to your senses. You are rather lost in thought there. Look lively now. You wouldn't want the princess to catch wind of your salacious thoughts, would you? I thought that you had learned your lesson about that already. Suitably chastened, you finish with the princess' hair, then set the brush aside. Now that the princess' tresses have been taken care of, you must start on her attire. The princess remains seated upon the edge of her bed, looking up at you askance. She does not ask you to avert your eyes, and nor does she make any motion of divesting herself of her nightgown. It really does seem as though she expects you to undertake this task on your own. Is that alright? You ask the princess as much. You would not wish to impinge upon her modesty, but she only laughs. Yes, that's alright. It's what you're supposed to do if you're to be my lady's maid. I'm used to being dressed and undressed. I'm not a bit squeamish about it. She might not be squeamish about it, but you are. You have never seen a naked woman before excepting yourself. Even then, however, you have always dressed and undressed furtively, not wanting to examine your body for longer than is strictly necessary. You have never much liked the way that you look. You make a few more mumbled objections, but the princess sweeps them to one side easily. It's alright, I may be a princess, but we're both people underneath all of our clothes. A dupe will look much different. You're not sure about that. You have not yet seen the princess unadorned, but you already know, to look at her face, that you are different. She is much, much prettier than you are, but she is waiting, and you do not wish to keep her any longer. You steady your nerves. Then you reach out with trembling hands and you begin to undo the buttons which run down the front of the princess' nightgown. Work as quickly as you are able, which, given how badly your hands are shaking, is not very. She looks so happy and smug with her hand close to her mouth. You fumble with a couple of the buttons, flinching as you do so, like Ojo from an anime or Vien. Oh ho 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 ho! The princess, however, seems blissfully unaware of what it is exactly you are doing, or not doing, for your fingers have begun to size up with the front of her nightgown. Like an Ojo.
Oh well? Oh well?
She's not even looking at you. I was looking at the chat. Did not get scared this time. Instead, her gaze is directed, not the glaze, goodness, directed beyond your shoulder to the windowsill and the sky beyond it. It isn't particularly sunny, but I don't think it's too cold outside. Going for a walk might not be a bad idea. What do you think, dear one? You think that you would like to finish undressing the princess as soon as possible, so you can make some progress on dressing her again. The sight of all this exposed skin is bad for your heart. Oh my, that's exaggerated too. We're young here, aren't we? I don't think it should affect our heart. Okay, fortunately you are able to make quick work of the princess' nightgown despite your initial mishaps, spurred on perhaps by your anxiety. The glaze isn't what generally used to glide around your place. Goodness. You bid the princess to stand, which she does, and neatly she steps out of her nightgown, her motions once again as graceful and as fluid as a dancer's. This task completed, you search hurriedly, worriedly, for the princess' red dress. Where is it? You cannot find it. Sweat begins to prickle on the back of your neck. Your palms, meanwhile, feel uncomfortably clammy. The moments pass awkwardly, uneasily, as you search, the princess standing there, all the while as naked as the day she was born. Goodness! Why did you not find her day dress before you stripped her of her night one? What a fool you are! The princess, noting your panic, jiggles, then says, "Are you looking for my dress?" "Yes," you reply, your face flushed. "That is what you were doing." "I thought so. I did wonder before you started undressing me why you do not ask it where it was. Maybe it slipped your mind?" Ababa. It had slipped your mind, yes, to your shame. You are too busy trying not to fixate upon the princess' buried skin to think about how best to conceal it. "My dress is in my armoire," the princess says, glancing over to the aforementioned piece of furniture. Let's pet the furniture. That armoire of hers is an intricately carved wooden structure, large enough, or so you estimate, to fit inside it enough dresses to attire a whole ballroom's worth of princesses. Thank you for the head pat. I'd like to wear the red one. Wait, that was a pun. I'm not furniture. I understood it now. That's not fair. I like to wear the red one. It's my favorite. Would you be a dear and fetch it for me? I don't want to rush you, but it is rather cold in here, especially when I'm still naked. She raises a good point. You turn away from the princess and make your way to her armoire. Once there, you open its wooden doors and peruse the clothes hanging within. It is just as you expected. Inside that wardrobe lies numerous dresses, all of them finely sewn and decorated with no shortage of ribbons, lace, and iridescent pearls. You find the princess' red dress and soon enough, then hurry to her side. With your spouse in hand, you hurry to dress her, concealing once again the princess' pale skin beneath layers upon layers of soft red velvet. I really like the art style here. Very interesting in particular. She's easier to look at now, you think, with her skin concealed. That might have been the most nerve-wracking task you have ever had to accomplish. Even more so than your perilous escape through the foggy forest. By the way, she's the only character we've seen. A bit weird. Yeah, true. Also the bebe. You forgot about the bebe. Why? It seems a small miracle you can still remember how to breathe. Ah, that's much better. Thank you, dear one, for your help. You've not been here for a full day, but I already wonder what I'd do without you. Charlie, you assured the princess that you did nothing, really, nothing beyond your job. You did not do anything incredible. And in any case, being complimented by somebody so pretty is embarrassing. Oh, don't be like that. I want to compliment you. Why shouldn't I, when you've been so helpful? It'd be rude not to, and anyway, I think you're very pretty too. Oh my pretty cinnamon buns. Your face flushes from this, more deeply than ever before. You ought to count yourself lucky, really. What with all of this excessive blushing, that the princess does not seem to possess any vampiristic tendencies. You are making yourself quite the easy target. Now, the princess declares, why don't we go for a walk? It's a nice enough day, and I get so very bored of being cooped up inside. So we are thinking it's Edward Cullen, a gender band? I see now. You can't think of any particular objections to raise to this remark, and you think that the princess might have a point. The castle, too expansive, is somewhat stifling. The walls are so very thick, they put you in mind of a crypt. With your acquiescence assured, the princess quits her chamber, her posture elegant and her gait unhurried. Eek! She seems not to walk as she navigates her way through the seemingly endless hallways of her home, but to float like a cloud. The hem of her dress swishes around her legs, and her hair shifts like a shroud. The castle's courtyard, meanwhile, is sadly lacking in comparison to the princess' beauty. The courtyard is fenced in by the castle's walls, which look, in the stark midday light, tall and imposing, faceless soldiers standing sentinel. Though the sun is out, it is not particularly bright, and neither is it particularly warm. The courtyard itself, meanwhile, is in a state of disarray. The flower beds are in shambles, all overgrown with weeds. It is all rather depressing. Are we gonna become a gardener now? The princess' castle might be grand in scale, but the courtyard itself is simple, hemmed in to a claustrophobic degree, like a coffin. The princess, however, seems to not share your dolorous mood. She instead looks elated by her newfound surroundings, her smile unwavering. She gambols about like a lamb, feeding hither and thither as she examines the weed-infested flower beds. Her frolicking comes to a cease, however, by a bush. One is full of bright red roses. Oh, how very pretty! Do you not think they are gorgeous, dear one? The flowers are not too disappointing, you suppose. They make for a fine spectacle, in fact, a welcome splash of color when contrasted with the dullness and the drabness which permeates the rest of the courtyard. Though the other flowers in their beds are wilted, withered things, it is not so for these roses. They are a rich bright red, just like blood, their heads so full they seem almost to droop beneath the weight of their own engorged petals. They are pretty, in a sense. There is something unsettling about them too, something that is almost obscene. How did those roses become so very red? What has been sustaining them? Would it be possible that these roses have been draining the life from the other flowers which are struggling to grow within this garden? It is a fanciful thought, but... Oh, they are simply divine! Looking at these roses always lifts my spirits. They really are my most favorite flowers. I simply must pick some of them. Perhaps I can use them to decorate my bedchamber. It could use a bit of color. The princess reaches out as to pluck one of the roses free from its resting place amongst its brethren. You watch her, your breath bated, anxious that this gesture might result in perforated flesh and bright red blood. But the princess is not as clumsy as you fear. Of course she's not. What did you think she was? You? Rather than worrying about other people, you'll be better served if you worried more about yourself. The princess holds her newly pilfered rose to her nose and inhales, her eyelids falling shut as the flower's sweet scent washes over her. A few moments of silence pass. Then the princess begins to toy with the petals which adorn the flower's crown. Now let me see. I wonder what fate has in store for me. She loves me. The princess plucks a petal from the flower's overburdened head. She loves me not. The princess continues with this childish incantation, all the while stripping her rose slowly and methodically of its petals. These petals flutter about the princess like bloody snow. The princess' voice, meanwhile, echoes throughout the courtyard, even more melodic than the strains of a pianola. She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. She loves me not. The princess' fingers hover over the final petal, which crowns her nearly denuded flower. Then, with a triumphant smile, she declares, "She loves me! I knew it!" You watch the princess amused by her girlish good cheer. The little mantra she has been reciting is one that you are familiar with. The girls at the conservatoire are also used to engage in this little game, the younger ones at least, who believe that a fairy tale prince would whisk them away. You might have participated in this game yourself when you were a child yourself, but you never pinned your hopes and dreams on a handsome prince. Your interest in princes has always been minimal. Are we interested in princesses instead? I'm not even gonna ask this myself, as 괰ᴏᴍᴜ is into girls' love types of stories from what she publishes so far. When it comes to fair princesses though, there we go. I said it, you see, I knew it, the princesses. Wink wink. Well, that is a different matter altogether, isn't it? Of course it is. Pleasantly you ask the princess, whose love it is she wishes to court, a query which makes the princess jiggle. Oh dear one, who else would I be thinking of? Naturally, I was thinking of you. Oh, that was very blunt of her. Naturally. She says it so easily, as though you ought to have suspected as much, and indeed, part of you did. You wanted to believe, yet part of you was afraid to. You did not want to be arrogant enough to assume that the princess might care for your affections. You begin to blush, your cheeks almost as red as the roses, while the princess laughs. She laughs and she laughs and she laughs, her voice clear and sweet like a nightingale's song, as though you are the funniest thing she has ever seen. You never liked being laughed at when you dwelt within the walls of the conservatoire, but it is different with her. You have not known her for all that long, but you are already entranced by her, ensnared. She has you wrapped around her little finger. Of course she does. Oh my! The princess louder tapers off in a series of jiggles as, smiling, she wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. That was quite the amusing diversion, but I just had an idea. You look at the princess curiously. What idea? You can tell? You cannot even begin to guess. I just thought that all this watching must be boring you, the princess says, tossing the rose-striped stem carelessly to the ground. You should give it a try. Please do, it'll be fun. The princess retrieves a second rose from the bushes, deftly snapping it between her fingers and offers it to you. I want to see what fate has in store for you too. You smile at the princess, touched by her enthusiasm. Indulging in childish games like this might not be the best use of your time, but the princess looks so very determined that you would not wish to hurt her. What could be the harm, really, in consenting? The only real casualty of this game will be one singular rose, the rose that the princess is holding towards you. You reach out, meaning to accept the princess' offering, but... Oh no! You're clumsy and you seize the stem of the rose with a touch too much strength. Dun dun dun! I'm pairing a dozen of Bluetooth earpods and headphones, don't mind me. Oh my goodness. Good luck! Ay ay ay. So it's blood. And so we're gonna discover if she is a gender-bent Edward Cullen now. The head of the rose might be pretty, but there is more to a rose than its bright red flowers. There are thorns. Roses have thorns too, a fact you are now being painfully reminded of. Pain flares through your finger and you gasp. You take a step back, the hem of your skirt swishing around your ankles. Your finger is stinging, and so are your eyes. You ought to have been more careful. Why were you so stupid? You poor dear, you're bleeding! The princess exclaims, alarmed. I was like, can you pair it with my new phones and bring it for things for the audio? Oh my. Meanwhile, me and my one earbuds. Then she frowns. This is all my fault. If I'd not suggested this silly game, this never would have happened. Please let me take care of you. And how is she going to do that? Perhaps she means to take a handkerchief from her pocket, with which she might stanch your wound. Princesses tend to carry handkerchiefs around with them. Don't they, silken ones? How else will they give brave knights tokens of their gratitude? Once these aforementioned knights have successfully slain dragons, princesses can hardly dispense kisses as favors. It simply is not done. That is what you always thought, but... Please, hold still, this might sting a little bit. Ay. This princess is anything but ordinary. Rather than take a handkerchief out of her pocket, she instead encloses her white, slender fingers around your hand. Carefully, as though she is handling a precious object, she raises your hand, her eyes affixed, all the while, on the beds of startlingly crimson blood, which are oozing luridly from your wound. She licks her lower lip. Then she dips her head. Oh what? She parts her mouth, and with a soft sigh which borders on the sensuous, she slips your injured digit between her teeth. So much for princesses not dispensing kisses as tokens of appreciation. Our design is very cute. Pink hair, braids. Very innocent-like design of ours. In comparison to the princess, of course. This might not be a conventional kiss, but feels intimate regardless. Almost startlingly so. The princess' lips, which are as red as any rose, are enclosed around your index finger. You can feel the warmth of the princess' mouth about your skin, and the wetness of it. These sensations make your whole body quake. You finally see main character, yes. Finally, indeed. You did not expect this. Tremulously, in a voice which wavers, you ask the princess what it is she doing. Oh, the princess glances up at you, her mouth still enclosed around your finger. Didn't I tell you? I'm trying to stop the bleeding. Yes, you gathered as much, but... Wait a second. Is the trigger warning off here? Wait. I thought it was still active. Sorry. There we go. Much better. That's it. Is there a problem? I'm not making you uncomfortable, am I? It's not, you say, that she's making you uncomfortable per se, but this is rather awkward. You did not expect it. That is, oh... And is she not worried that this is unhygienic? Hygienic? The princess blinks. She's the very picture of innocence, which is funny, really. Even your finger is still not set against her tongue. I don't know what you mean by that, exactly. But I've heard this is the best way to take care of cats. My nursemaid used to do this for me when I was a child. It's what you're supposed to do. That's so. And you ask, your voice catching in your throat. Did her nursemaid keep stanching her wounds with her mouth when she grew older? Well, no, but my nursemaid was dismissed when I was 8 years old. That's the normal way of things. I had my lady's maids to look after me then. How very interesting, and did they ever clean her wounds like this? No, the princess says, smiling mischievously, because I'm not clumsy enough to cut myself, silly. Now that was quite the sharp retort. You did not expect it. Your face turns even redder. If such a thing is possible, though this might perhaps be to your benefit. With some luck, all of your blood will flow to your face, rather than to your finger, and your bleeding will stop. As it stopped, your injury was not a deep one. There should be no need for the princess to keep on suckling. But she still is. You're not accustomed to intimacy of this nature, it is making your heart flutter. If the princess knew what her mouth was doing to you, you're sure she would not be so very familiar. You feel quietly, crushingly confident that she would scorn you for your feelings and deem them unnatural. It will not be the first time. At this point you should be used to rejection. It still stings too. It stings much more than any turn on any rose ever could. Days pass following your misadventures in the rose garden in a relaxed and hurried sort of a manner. Your mad dash through the forest is beginning to feel like a distant memory, so much so you can scarcely recall the raw, naked fear you once felt as you fled for your life. There is no running to be had while you are working for the princess. You would have nowhere else to run, and in any event, there is no longer any reason to run. The shadows which once tormented you have, at long last, begun to recede. You can scarcely recall, as you lay down in your bed, the petty cruelties You are subjected to by your classmates at the conservatoire. They no longer matter. Your attention is focused not upon yourself but upon the princess. Second, I'm gonna open the window, otherwise I'm gonna suffocate here. I don't want that to happen, of course. The more time you spend with her, the more you come to care for her. You have become quite besotted with her, but you are yet to realize it. Well, I never. How very ignorant can one girl be of her own feelings? The princess is not half as so ignorant as you are, though, despite having spent her whole life within the palace's walls. The weight of her own feelings are not unknown to her, and during one stormy night, she chooses to make them known to you. You are in the princess' chamber later, perhaps than you ought to be, later than is strictly appropriate. It is dark outside, and there is little save the light of the moon to alleviate that and the fire which crackles in the grate. You have only just finished stoking that very fire, and now you rise. You look to the princess who is lying in her bed, and you bid her a good night as you have many nights past. With a neat courtesy, you turn to leave, but the princess' plaintive voice gives you a pause. Wait, dear one, don't go. Not just yet. Perplexed, you pause, then look back at the princess. Though she is smiling, her expression is unusually wan. Is she alright? Oh, I'm sure I'll be fine. It's just nights like this, you know, which make me feel a little out of sorts. And what, you ask, does she mean by that? Only that it is very cold and very dark. And it is very windy, besides. I'm afraid there will be a storm later. It was awfully cloudy earlier, when we went out for a walk. The princess is not mistaken about that. The sky, when the pair of you promenaded about the gardens earlier, was grey and steely, the wind bitingly cold. You can hear the wind rattling mournfully against the panes in the princess' bedchamber. The princess' castle is built of stone and is well fortified, but even with the fire, it is rather cold. You don't like to think of how much chillier by comparison it will be in your humble bedchamber, which is not fortunate enough to have its own fireplace. It might sound childish, but I've always found it hard to sleep on stormy nights like this. They make me feel uncomfortable. You look at the princess with no small degree of sympathy. No longer clad in her bright red dress, she looks oddly, uncommonly vulnerable. Will she really be alright, all alone in her oversized bed in her high-ceilinged bedchamber? You know it is silly of you to contemplate such a query. Why would she not be alright? There is nobody in the castle to hurt her, but still, you fret for her. As her lady's maid, it is your job to fret for her. You would never want your mistress to feel unhappy. That is true. You ask the princess what she would have you do, and the princess perks up at this, pleased perhaps that you are taking the initiative. I wouldn't like to take up too much of your time when it is so very late, but would you mind sitting with me a little while longer and reading to me, provided that you can, of course? This is a fair enough question, but your pride bristles regardless. Hastily you assured the princess that yes, of course you could read. You are a poor student in many aspects at the conservatoire, but you had something of a gift when it came to the literary arts. Reading books is all you have ever been any good at. Oh, I see, I suppose I should have known. You're so incredible, I sometimes wonder if there's anything you can do. The princess' high praises make you flush. Awkwardly you look away. Like the contrast between us being so insecure. I believe after all the bullying, and the princess always praising us, and noticing the little things and giving them much importance. Like noticeable. Being able to read, you reassure her, is not such a great feat. Perhaps it isn't where you hail from, but it is here. Very few of my old servants could read, and they certainly couldn't read the books that I like. This piques your interest. Intrigued, you ask the princess what books exactly she likes. Well, I'm glad you asked it. I'm fond of fairy tales, you see, old ones from centuries past. I have a collection of them here, the princess says, indicating a book on her bedside table, as thick as a mortuary slab. In a moment, I'm gonna check if Baba has fallen asleep or not. Be right back. Just a minute. I'm back. So basically, Baba couldn't sleep. I had to contact the doctor to ask what medications I could give him to fall asleep. After that, I realized that it was way too hot at home for the hammy. So we turned on the air condition, the humidificator actually, because otherwise it would not be a way to survive for the hammy. So a bit of time. I didn't realize it was as hot in the other half of the apartment, because here it's quite hot but not as bad actually. Okay, I have a collection of them here, the princess says, indicating a book on her bedside table, as thick as a mortuary slab. The book is old too, and the bindings are weak, the pages brittle, the writing woefully old-fashioned. I didn't trust any of my past servants with that book, but I think you would do a good job breathing life into those old stories. Would you mind reading to me for just a brief while? Please, dear one, oh please! The princess' request seems a simple one, expressed sweetly. So much so, you see no reason to refuse her. You take a seat beside the princess upon her luxurious bed, which sinks beneath your weight. Then you retrieve the leather-bound book, which is resting upon her bedside table, and spread it open. The pages of the book are very brittle, like the princess said, and the bindings of the book are loose. You can feel, in the heft of the book's manifold pages, the weight of the ages concealed within it. How old is this book? Perhaps it is as old as the castle in which it resides. I really love books. I also like taking out older books at the bibliothèque and whatnot. Too bad when they are like quite old, you know, when they got that yellowish page color and that certain odor. They do tend to collect dust, even if they are like undusted, and I do have allergies, bad allergies for the dust mainly, so I cannot really be that much in contact with old books, sadly. That is always something that did excite me since I was a kid, honestly. Picking out books, older books. It is with a quiet voice, hesitant at first, that you begin to read to the princess a tale of courtly love, which culminates in a lavish wedding ceremony. All the while as you read, the princess listens to you, enraptured, hanging, or so it seems, upon your every word. Once you reach the final phrase embossed upon the pages of this aged tome, and they live it happily ever after, the princess sighs as though this tale has touched her very soul. Would that there was a handsome prince to marry me, she says somberly, or better yet, a beautiful princess. At this point I think I would even settle for a lowly scullery maid. You blush at this idle remark and mumble softly, but this would not be proper. The storm outside is still squalling, and you have never been one to raise your voice. You don't expect, therefore, that the princess will overhear you, but she does. She observes you, her head resting against her pillows, and says, "And what would be the problem with that, As my maid, shouldn't my happiness come before any silly ideas of propriety?" "Oh, of course," you reply, "but for a princess to marry a scullery maid." "You're still hung up about that?" The princess titters. "Don't pay too much heed. I'm just talking to myself." As if anything like that would ever happen when there is no priest around who would officiate it. I think there are greater issues with the princess' plan than the lack of priest, though she does present a good point. The castle is an empty one. Even if the princess were to find somebody that she loves, there would be nobody to make such a wedding official. You cannot help but feel like you have avoided a good deal of nuisance, but by the same token, do you not feel a touch of disappointed? Well, never mind. That was a nice story, the princess says. But I'm not sleepy yet, and it's still storming outside. Won't you read me one more? You would not mind, you reply, but it is getting late. You really ought to return to your own chamber. I know, but can't you find it in your heart to read one story to me? Just one? You can choose a short one, I won't complain. You have some doubts about that, but, as before, you cannot resist the princess' demands. It is not, you think, because she is a princess too, that is, of course, a part of it, but because she is... well, radiant. You would not, you think, As you turn to the next story recounted in this aged compendium, want to upset her, you'd rather cut your own tongue. You read another story to the princess which is of a similar vein to the last, impossible adventures culminating at their close in a happy marriage. This tale delights the princess just as much as the tale you read prior, and she begs for another, then another. One bedroom story soon becomes 5, and even then, when the candles which flicker on the princess' bedside are close to guttering out, the princess is not satisfied. Like a grasping greedy child, she has never heard of moderation. When she wants something, she seeks to gut herself with it. Her only request, that of more. If she were less comely, perhaps his inability to adhere to the word no would be seen as a character defect. The princess is very comely, however, and so when she makes her next request, you almost agree offhand without considering the ramifications. I think I could go to sleep now, but the storm is still raging. I feel lonely on my own, in this big empty bed, so... I know, the princess' eyes light up like the sky in a thunderstorm. Why don't you sleep with me? There we go. Was awaiting this moment. It was odd that we were just reading stories so far, once she was unable to sleep. You stare at the princess, your eyes wide as goose eggs. As goose eggs. Slowly you blink. Then just as slowly you bid her to repeat herself. Didn't you hear me? Princess giggles. Maybe you've been so busy cleaning up after me. You've neglected to clean out your own ears. I say, dear one, would you like to sleep with me? If that is the question she truly means to ask, then it is easy enough to answer. Of course you'd like to sleep with her. It would be an honor. But would it really be alright for you to accept such an invitation? It must be a gross breach of protocol, surely, for a lowly domestic such as yourself to share a bed with a princess. You sit upon the princess' bedside, fretting while she observes with wide, beseeching eyes. She is waiting. Well, what's the matter, dear one? Why do you tarry so? Could it be... The princess' lower lip begins to tremble. Don't you want to live with me after all? The sorrow present in the princess' voice and in her face makes you feel awfully guilty. Hardly you console her. You tell her in no uncertain terms that if she truly wishes to partake in your company, then you have no qualms with it. Why would you? Well then, don't just stand there dilly-dallying silly. Come and join me, come! And that is what you do, after returning briefly to your own chamber to change into your nightgown. Once dressed, you waste no time in returning to your impetuous princess' side. She's already lying in her glorious four-poster bed, awaiting your return as though you are a knight errant gone away to slay some wicked dragon. The princess giggles when she sees you in your haste to change. You have made a hash of the buttons, and she bids you to come closer. Let me fix that for you, silly. Oh no, you say, I can't possibly let you do that. I am but a servant after all. Should it not be your job to dress her? Maybe so, the princess says, but I don't mind a bit of role reversal. It makes things more fun, hehe. You try a few more refutations, but in vain. The princess summarily discards all of them. Without the princess' mercy, she might be even more stubborn than you are. You capitulate to her demands. You let the princess unbutton the front of your nightdress, then rebutton them, so the fabric of your plain gown is drawn shut. Satisfied with her handiwork, she has very elegant hands. The princess draws back and pats the mattress beside her. Now, come in. It must be horribly cold out there, but these sheets are warm. Slowly the princess smiles. And so am I. You feel warm yourself, you slide into the bed beside the princess. Your face is as red as the gown the princess so often wears, as red as the roses in the castle's grounds. All the while your heart is fluttering. Does the princess know what an effect she's having on you? Surely she must. How could any woman be so blind? There, the princess exclaims. Once your body is lying beside hers, that is much better. Do you feel cozy now, dear one? Follow, and with a shaky voice you reassure her. One boomer phone text super later, I'm back. Welcome back. We're sleeping with the princess here. Yes, you're cozy. You're quite cozy indeed. Very good, the storm might be raging outdoors, but it can't get us here. I know, when I'm with you, I'll be safe. It's strange, but... The princess reaches out, then takes your hand in hers, twining your fingers together like a chain. When I'm with you, I feel so very light. It's as though nothing in the world can hurt me. You make me feel safe, so I want to make you feel safe too. I'll take very, very good care of you, I promise. You return her smile with one of your own. Touched by her thoughtfulness, though something about her promise does make you wonder. Should not be your job to look after her as a domestic? In a way, the princess replies after a pause, but you've been taking good care of me already. Now I need to return the favor. As a princess, I'm supposed to look after my vassals. It's all part of the job description. You are unaware that being a princess came with a job description. You thought the profession came with far fewer written responsibilities and far fewer forms to sign than, say, becoming a doctor or an astrophysicist or a mathematics professor. You thought the princess this, sleepily, and she laughs. You do say some funny things, dear one. I think you must be tired. Rest your head. You've been working so hard, I think you deserve it. Yes, you think, only half-conscious, you think you deserve it too. You have been working hard for a long time, have been running for even longer, but now, at long last, you feel like you can let your fears go. Your eyelids begin to droop, your body beleaguered by a sudden, all-consuming fatigue. And in a quite understated sort of way, your consciousness is conveyed to Morpheus' kingdom. Your sleep is a deep one, despite the storm which rages outdoors. The wind is howling like a couple of wild cats, who flocked in a vicious and bloodthirsty bout to the death. But you do not hear it. Both my parents actually got bigger phone, I feel so weird. Bigger, but still the tech is not up to the place I got 2 years ago for the one I got. Oh my. I hope it was easy enough to set up. Swaddled by the warm blankets about you, and soothed by the prince's presence, you are immune from all the ills of the world. When you're with the princess, you feel safe, secure, and yes, you even feel loved. It is a pity then that these feelings do not last for very long. Only Pfontek Support was with the phone only. Oh my. You know that something is wrong. Catastrophically so, the moment you open your eyes. Your thoughts are hopelessly jumbled, but you are certain that when you fell asleep, it was in a bed, a nice warm bed no less, and with soft, comfortable sheets. You're not lying in a bed right now, too. Is this Sayanuuta? You're not, in fact, lying at all. Ah! No, okay. You're standing instead against a cold, hard wall made of stone. Goodness. The curve of your back is pressed against the wall so intimately, you can feel its icy chill seeping through the fabric of your nightgown. I was wondering where the 괰ᴄᴏᴜ were actually, because I didn't already. I don't think there's any good end actually. We're gonna see about that. Your feet, which are bare, are similarly pressed against cold, unfeeling stone. They feel so frigid you can't help but tremble. You're trembling so much you can feel your teeth chattering together. They sound like castanets. The sound is almost jaunty as it echoes through yourself, for that is indeed where you are. The prince's bedchamber, wherein you fell asleep, is a thing now, of the past. You're standing instead, you realize, with a sharp start, in the cell of some great underground dungeon. You swallow, and when you do, you can taste something bitter on your tongue. Your stomach is beginning to churn with anxiety. You feel like you are going to be sick, a feeling which wells up inside you to a staggering degree, when you catch notice of the stench. You're not, you realize, the only one in the dungeon. There are others here, others attired in the simple black and white outfits of servants, which look much like the dress that you once wore. The others who are with you, however, in this expansive cell, manacled to the walls, are in no fit state to speak to you, nor to tell you of their plights. They're all unfeeling, seeing, unbreathing. They're all dead. Goodness, that background music freaked me out. You cannot approach these servants to check their pulses, for you yourself are restrained, but even if you could, there would be no point. There's no way any human could survive the wounds which have been inflicted upon these sad, slumbered bodies. I see nobody, I see bones only. But actually there are some hands behind. maybe it's bones as well. Over there, you see a woman slump at the front of her once white apron stained with blackish blood. There is a gaping wound in her stomach, one through which her entrails have half escaped in some sort of burgundy goop which might once have been pale pink. There is another woman slumped beside the first of a smaller stature. She is skinnier. Maybe she is not a woman after all, but an adolescent like yourself. She might even be younger. Your sage, Alakov, did not preclude her attacker from inflicting upon her horrors. Alas, her body is even more mutilated than the first. Her body is peppered with even more welts and her face has been half smashed in. Only one eye remains, staring fixedly at the wall opposite her, in the ruined remains of what was once her school. Over there you see a woman who is missing both her arms and her lower jaw. Over there you see another who is missing her entire lower half. Where have her legs gone? You have no idea. The injuries inflicted upon these bodies are ghastly, but their advanced decay is enough to turn your stomach. You know not how long these carcasses have been lying down here, but they have begun to putrefy. You fear a similar fate might befall you, should you stay here. You need to escape. Pitifully, you struggle against the manacles which bind you. But alas, it is no use. You cannot free yourself from the walls. Your strains are much too strong and you are much too weak. Panic rises up in your throat, cold and icy, while terror seizes your heart. This too glacial. It's obvious that escape is impossible, but still you squirm and writhe, like a rat caught in a firestorm. There's little point, however, to your struggles. You succeed in nothing, as you attempt to free yourself, save making the steel manacles stick into your abused wrist more sharply than ever. You gasp. That hurts. Well, you ought to have known that would not work. The very definition of insanity is, you know, performing a set action over and over again, hoping for a different response. In that sense, perhaps, one could argue optimism is not so very different from insanity. Now, that is an interesting point to consider, would you not agree? No, evidently not. You are still trying to escape, you foolish girl, as if that will do you any good. The clangorous rattling of your steely restraints is really starting to get on my nerves. You're making enough noise to raise to the dead down there, in your dark, dingy cell, and all your screaming is hardly helping matters. I wish that you would cease this infernal racket, but I know you will not. Nothing else could ever get through to you. Not that you have ever listened to me in the first place. Perhaps you would listen to her, too. Is she not your kind, considerate mistress? Look now, she has come all this way, into the dark depths of the castle's cold, inhospitable dungeon to see you. So the narrator is back. Sassy narrator, is that not kind of her? Oh, dear one, the princess trails, entering the dungeon with a surge of light, lilting steps. It will seem like you have finally awoken. How are you? Visit on all that infernal racket you've been making. It will seem like you have no shortage of energy. Helpfully, you turn your head so as to meet the eyes of the princess. She is standing but a few paces away. Beneath the roughly hewn stone arch which binds one entry, but rarely ever an exit to the dungeons. The dungeons are dull and drab, but the princess is wearing her favorite red dress. It is so bright and brilliant that, for a few moments, it hurts you to look at her. Once the red of the princess' outfit made you think of romance. Now it makes you think of violence. You must forgive me for leaving you down here for so long. That was unfair of me. I did think of waiting here with you, by your side, until you awoke, but... Once again the princess jiggles, a light, airy jiggle, which does not at all suit the situation in which you have found yourself. A dungeon is not a fit place, after all, for a princess. It's horribly cold here and so very drab, and there's nowhere nice and soft to lay my head. I could have brought my pillows down from my bed, I suppose, and my blankets, but then they would have gotten dirty and that would be a disaster. I need to be more careful. I won't have anybody left to clean up after my messes soon, not when I'm dispatched of you. Once again the princess laughs, her laughter is light and lilting, like the chiming of a silvery bell, but it does little to alleviate your concern. If anything, it makes you feel even more alarmed. Did she say she meant to dispatch of you? Yes, that's right. Would you not tell? I thought you might figure that out already, after waking up in a dungeon, silly. Still smiling, the princess takes another step towards you. Would that you could, you would cringe away from her, but you cannot. You're completely powerless. The princess reaches out and places a hand upon your cheek. Her skin is very white, and though her touch is so cool, it is less so than the frigid air in the dungeon. I wonder if she will state her reasons of locking us up, and all of the previous mates as well. Or if she's just bonkers like that. Though your body is aching, the princess' touch is gentle, and you find yourself leaning into it subconsciously. You wish she would keep holding you. You wish she would keep touching you. You look surrogate in her kindness as best as you can. I'm wondering, maybe, as we mentioned, the rose is taking the life out of other flowers to survive. Maybe that is what the princess is doing here? But though the princess' caresses are tender, your circumstances later undermine them. How can you relax like this? Ah, you're such a good girl, the princess says in cajoling sort of voice, as one might address a cat. You've been so lovely to me while we've been together, I really couldn't ask for a better servant. I feel as though I've been spoiled. Why then, you ask her, is she doing this? Improbable though it sounds, she must be the one who chained you up. There's nobody else in the castle who could have committed such a feat. Everybody else is dead. We're cray like that, I think. Why, yes, how very astute of you. I was the one who orchestrated all this naturally. Naturally, she says. As though her betrayal is a matter of course. Naturally. Why, you ask, is this so natural to her? What does she mean to do with you? Oh, only what I've done to all of my other servants. I have experience with this sort of thing, so please don't worry. I'll take good care of you. And by take good care of, she means, naturally, I'll kill you. Hey, there it is again, that word which seems grossly inappropriate, given all which has transpired. Naturally. There's nothing natural about this. Do you not think so? The princess examines you. Her expression ponderous. It's natural to me, even if it isn't natural to other people. This just feels right. Imprisoning her servants in the dungeon and letting them die? Yes, exactly. There's a bit more to do it than that, though. Oh, of course, there she is. Of course there is. I like you, dear one, the princess says in a voice which sounds uncommonly serious. You have been good to me, like I said, and kind. For that I will be eternally appreciative. You have been so good to me. In fact, that simply being with you is not enough. Not anymore. Oh my. Your company can no longer content me. I'm a greedy, selfish girl, you see. The princess' smile wanders into something sinister, her eyes flashing with a fiendish fervor you have never before witnessed. And I don't want to feel you beside me. I want to feel you inside me. Well, of all the things your charming captive could have said, you did not expect that. The princess, perhaps noticing your confusion, begins to jiggle, a jiggle even lighter than meringue, and just as airy. Meringue is good too. It is just as inoffensive. I can see that you don't understand, dear one, but you aren't the only one. My last lady's maid said that too. I hope the main character don't take it the wrong way. Wanly, the princess sighs. A beleaguered woe is me sigh, which makes her look even younger than the scant handful of years she truly possesses. And the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. I thought that you at least might be able to appreciate my point of view, but perhaps not. I don't think it should be too complicated to grasp, really. But maybe my way of looking at the world is a little bit unique. That's what my nurse always used to say, at least, when she still had the breath to speak, of course. You look at the princess, where else is there for you to look, really? Your eyes are fixed to her face. She's still smiling, but there is something sinister about her smile. Or perhaps, in your anxious state, you're only imagining that there is something sinister about her smile. It is easy to see things which don't really exist when your surroundings are festooned in shadows. In actuality, however, the princess does not look any different to how she usually does. Neither is she acting any differently to the way she usually acts. She has not changed, it is only your perspective of her that has changed. Tremulously, you ask the princess what she means, a question the princess is only too happy to answer. It's a simple, really, like I said. You were wondering, weren't you, why there weren't any guards or any servants in the castle when you first arrived here? The question had crossed your mind, yes. You are sure that the princess said her ministers sent them away to... Was that a lie? I wasn't being wholly truthful, no. I thought you would be afraid of me if you knew what had actually happened, and I didn't want that. I wanted you to stay with me. My ministers didn't send anybody away because I didn't have any ministers. I dispatched of them too. Did she now? You suppose you ought not to be surprised, but you still shudder regardless. My ministers weren't very much fun, I'm afraid. They had a lot of ideas about what I should and shouldn't do after my parents died. The princess stares at you, her eyes wide like black holes, empty, yawning abysses. So, I killed them. I killed my servants too, though I did a more true job with them than I did my ministers. I did not care for my ministers, you see. They were all fusty old men, but I did love my servants. I love my ladies' maids, and my undermaids, and my scullery maids, and my housekeeper, and my cooks, and my large retinue of retainers. They were like my family. They raised me in my parents' absence, and I adored them. They were so very dear to me that I had no real choice. I had to eat them. Does that follow? Not logically, no. Why, asked the princess, your voice trembling, would you eat the people that you love? It seems a poor way to repay them for their kindness. Well, why wouldn't you eat the people that you love? I don't think there could be any greater way of showcasing one's gratitude unless you have any better ideas. Oh my goodness. Oh, cannibalism, I see. Yeah, as I mentioned it. You weren't expecting the princess to turn the tables on you quite like this, and dumbfounded you stared at her. You know precious little about yourself. So it is hard for you to form a convincing rebuttal, but you muster up a few token arguments. You told the princess that eating people isn't very nice, and neither it is strictly legal. A better way to show your gratitude to your servants will be with increased wages or increased holidays. The princess listens to your arguments, her expression astute, like a student poised to take notes in a very important lecture. Once you are finished, however, her concentration fails here. Her shoulders begin to shake, but it is not with remorse for what she has done. Instead, she's laughing. Oh, dear one, that's very funny, but why should I care about the law? I'm a princess, one day I'll be the queen, I am the law. That is a good point, but would eating people not turn her subjects against her? What subjects? I'm no fool, you know, no matter how I may act. And I know what happens beyond the castle's walls. I know all about the plague. Once I might have had a populace to govern, but they're all gone now. I'm a princess in nothing but name only, a monarch without any subjects. Don't you think that's sad? I know I do. It's so woefully lonely. If she feels lonely, then why has she been systematically slaughtering all of her domestics? It doesn't make a lick of sense. Perhaps not. To you. Gently the princess caresses your cheek. But I shouldn't judge you too harshly, as much as I like you, dear one. You're a commoner. Perhaps you can't understand the intricacies of my thoughts. Privately, you doubt that anybody will be able to understand the intricacies of the prince's thought process, largely because it is unreasonable. You do not say that, though. Instead, you ask her the only question you can think to ask, with your weary throat, which is sore from shouting. Why? Why, you ask, the princess blinks. It's because I don't want you to leave me, of course. There we go with the younger character. Everybody leaves sooner or later, whether they have pledged their allegiance to me or not. That is simply the way of the world. People are fickle and inconsistent, even to me, a monarch. That is why I decided to eat my servants. I had no choice, you see. It was the only way to ensure that they would never leave me. When you think about it, they should be grateful that I would demean myself so to consume their flesh and blood. I am a magnanimous ruler, you see, and I treat all of my subjects equally. I love every single one of you. And naturally, I love you too. You have been awfully nice to me. And you are very pretty alongside it. You are a plain ugly girl, perhaps I will not shower you with affection quite as intense as this. But you've captured my heart. You're lovely. So I bestow upon you the highest honor I can conceive of. I want your body to mix with mine. Then we can stay together forever and ever. The princess leans in. You can feel her soft silken hair brushing against your cheeks. You can feel too the warmth of her breath as it goes against your skin. It is cold in the dungeon, but the princess' close proximity is. Perverse too, it might sound something of a comfort. Her eyes are wide and her lips are so red. Her smile, meanwhile, is so sweet. I've been doing my best to fulfill the role that fate has dictated for me, but really... The princess exhales. Her eyes, which are boring into yours, are like two dark torrents. Only you think you can see, in the alarming lack of light, the lack of anything, in the princess gaze some degree of humanity. It gets so lonely here. But this bare flicker of understanding, which passes between the pair of you, is soon cut short. The princess dips her head. She parts her lips, which are as red as the petals of a carnivorous flower. You feel the princess' breath against your neck. It is warm in the icy chill of the dungeons, and you shudder from it. For a few moments you think that this overture of the princess could be romantic, but this too comes to a swift, merciless close. Chomp. I can't hear you, I'm eating my crackers right now. The princess' mouth is on your neck. The princess' teeth, sharp as needles, are in your flesh. The princess is draining your blood. She is supping on it in great, greedy goblets, like a hungry animal. One who cannot truly comprehend the harm it is causing. Even as the princess sups from you, her arms twined around your waist, you find you cannot hate her. She is far too unworldly. You are sure, as your consciousness begins to fade, that the princess was being sincere when she spoke of her love with her past servants. This is simply the way the princess expresses this great love of hers. A love which is so very abundant, it borders upon the monstrous. It is a love you never thought that you would ever experience. This love of the princess eclipses anything you have ever known before. It eclipses sanity. It eclipses reason. It eclipses all notions you might once have had of right or wrong. The princess, as you know full well, does not care about such concepts. You have always possessed a stubborn core, nestled beneath your weak-willed exterior, but the princess is even stubborner than you are. In the face of her love, you have met your match. The princess draws back desperately. You gasp for air, but she does not give you any quarter. As before she dips her head, her red lips redder still with your blood, then splits apart her jaw. Her teeth, which are impossibly inhumanly sharp, glint wickedly like knives. Then she tears out your throat. The front of your nightgown was white once. Now it is red. There is so much blood you can smell it when you inhale, sharper than metal. It is so potent you can taste it on your tongue. You try to inhale, but this task proves to be beyond you. That with the twin perforations that have ruptured your skin. Your attempted breaths, when they escape your lips, sound like sad, sorry wheezes. Your whole body, meanwhile, feels as though it is on fire. You make for quit the sorry side indeed, but you'll forgive me if my sympathy is limited. You'd bring this upon yourself, you know. You reap what you sow, and in your case, you made a series of bad decisions which led to your ultimately demise. Now, what do you want to do? Will you accept this fate of yours and rest in peace, or will you try to fight against it? Oh, maybe we can change it. I like this scene. Let's fight. That's a good answer, I must admit. I like it. It is impressive how very defiant you can be, even in a situation as discomforting as this. Now, I try not to cry. Keep your chin up. This is but a minor setback in your story. Like all fair maidens, you are deserving of your own happy ending. You need only the strength to try and seek it out. Why don't we give this another go? Just try to not ensnare the hearts of any more monarchs, particularly those with unusual appetites. You are destined for far higher purposes than being an entry, and there are vastly more enjoyable ways to be eaten in this world. Ah, your fate is once again in your hands. I wonder, which path would you take? Wow. So we're back here. I'm gonna take a short break. Meanwhile, perhaps I'm gonna reshare the stream and whatnot, because I wanna keep streaming for a bit longer. Like half an hour, perhaps. Thank you for the hydrate. If it's too late for you, Simi, feel free to go. It's no problem, really. So I'm gonna put scene 2. Be right back. No, with phone text support. Getting some VN on the side, no worries. Oh, okay. Woody then. Wait, I'm gonna actually change the music on the screen. The game's audio. Here I am, I'm back. I believe I heard an alert. Sophia Anderson, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you so much, welcome. I hope you will enjoy my stream. That you will enjoy your stay here. We're about to continue this dark, violent and horror novel. Let me adjust the text over here too. And okay, there we go. There we go, much better. Okay. I did refill the water bottle and check it upon the hammy. It seems like the air conditioner didn't actually turn on for some reason. So. Hello, ᴄᴏᴍᴍᴜ. Keep up the good work. Thank you kindly, thank you for the headpad. Hello, good evening. Or Gyepi morning, Gyepi day, Gyepi afternoon, whatever Gyepi might be working the best for you. So, I was actually curious to explore didn't we get a choice while we were at the castle before? Like we could choose whether to lie or not to the princess, I think. But okay. Let's go to the village or to the shore. To the village or to the shore. I think the shore will be the most interesting to me. So let's go to the village. Let's go to the village for now. I'll pick the other choice later on. The chance is no, sadly. Yeah, I think so. So, you want to go to the village? Good idea. Let us see what further trails await you there. This night is far from over, as much as you might wish it was, and there is still much and more to discover. I wonder what will happen next. You follow the path which leads to the village, supporting yourself on weary, aching limbs, which feel ready, at a moment's notice, to snap at a knee beneath the burden of your weight. The soles of your feet are screaming at you. You need to lie down, and quickly. You only hope as you continue to run that you will find a suitable residence in which to rest at the village. So it seems like this game is a loop of itself, like we were running because we were escaping something and then we encounter someone and then we restart running and encounter someone else. I wonder if there will be like an ending that that is not actually brutal or something? I don't think so, honestly. You do not know what will await you at the village, but you have visions as you run of a quaint scenic settlement, all thatched, cottages with sloping roofs. Surely there will be a kindly peasant who will be willing to put up a young runaway for a few nights. You can imagine too. The face of this kindly peasant from the fairy tales you read in abundance of as a small child. She will be broad-shouldered and ruddy-faced with dull brown hair crammed beneath a cap. Her arms will be sturdy for many years of washing clothes and milking cows, but she'll be kind to you and compassionate, just like a mother. You don't know what mothers are like, you hardly ever spoke to yours. Wonder if all characters are female that you encounter. I think they will be female, but I have no idea so far. Because usually I become the feature females only, unless she states so ahead in the tweets. You don't know what mothers are like, you hardly ever spoke to yours, you're only guessing. You're not a complete fool, however, despite your tendency to daydream, and you do have a few reservations. Peasants do not, as you know from your voracious reading, have much money, nor do they have much food. It might be hard to convince a resident of the village, even the kindly washerwoman of your fantasies, to take in a complete stranger. Still, you must try. That is all you can do, really. So you run to the village. It takes some time before you finally emerge from the woods, but finally you manage it. How much time, you ask? I cannot answer that. Didn't I say that time had begun to lose all its meaning? The forest is behind you now, at least, and all the awful nightmares which dwelt within it. It's still cold too, and still foggy. It is still dark too. The sun has yet to rise. You can see the moon more clearly now, though, as it hangs above your head, round as any pearl, or orb, or crystal ball. The moonlight shines down upon the village, nested among the hills like a diorama. Hope anew bubbles within you. You have finally made it, surely not, but your salvation awaits you. You follow the winding dirt path to the village, looking this way and that, but your hope, such a precious, fragile thing, soon begins to fade. The village up close does not look half as welcoming as you imagine it. There are cottages, yes, but they are in a state of disrepair. There are holes in the roofs and holes in the windows. Most of the doors are tightly shut, but others are gaping open, the kitchens beyond them even darker than the night sky which shrouds you. There are no lights on in any of the windows, and neither can you see any people, insomniacs like you, at them. You cannot hear anything either beyond the sound of your own footsteps and the low, mournful sighing of the wind. The village is quite quiet, eerily so. It is immediately obvious, even to a naive girl such as yourself, that something terrible must have befallen this village. You know before you try your luck at one of the houses that nobody will answer to you. There will be no kindly, red-armed washerwomen to welcome you here, no matter how much you wish for it. But that does not stop you from wishing regardless. Your knuckles rap smartly against the wooden door, your efforts soon prove, however, to be in vain. There is nobody here to hear your entreaties. How very sad, you try another door, then another, but the result is the same regardless of how many doors you rap upon. Nobody answers you, how could they? There's nobody there. Once again you have found yourself all alone. At least you have found some dwellings in which you can rest your weary head. Will you utilize one of these cottages for your purposes? Nobody is here, you might as well... But no, an abandoned cottage is not what you are looking for. You'd for a writer have companionship, would you not? Early you swallow your tears, you wipe your eyes with the back of your arm in well-practiced motion, then inhale. You square your shoulders and you keep on going. Surely the village cannot be completely deserted. There must be one person here at the very least who can help you. That is what you are thinking as you resume your search. You flit from cottage to cottage with precious little to show for your determination, until you make yet another discovery. This village, with its squat thatched cottages bathed in the moon's glow, has a church. Well, of course it has a church. The villagers who once dwelt here were not godless heathens. Not that their fate did them all that much good in the end. Still, the sight of the church soothes your overtaxed heart. You You are so focused on your fantasies of a kindly washerwoman taking you in, you did not pause to entertain the fancy of a kindly nun doing the same. All hope is not lost. You approach the church, which seems to tower over you despite it being so humble. The church is a small one, but it is stout and sturdy. It must be, for it has withstood centuries, forever standing sentinel on this hill like a relic from a bygone era. The church does not have any stained glass windows, but it does not need them. Even without more luxurious trappings, the church still exudes an aura of dignified solemnity. The stone building is fringed by the sizable graveyard, one which occupies the rest of the hilltop and some of its sloping sides. The graves, which have been planted by generations of wardens, are hewn from a similar stone to that which the church's walls are made of. Some of the gravestones are shaped like lozenges, while others are shaped like crosses. A handful of headstones are even shaped like angels, though these are few and far between. There are very few people in a village such as this one who can afford such luxurious final resting places. You look at the dumbstones with an almost childlike curiosity, forgetting in your examination of the visceral, heart-rending fear which gripped you as you ran through the forest. You are out of the woods now and you have, subconsciously, already begun to relax. You try to read the names hewn into the mirror tombstones, but it is dark and you are tired, and some of these graves are very, very old indeed. You strain your eyes, but you do not have much luck in this endeavor. Oh well, such superfluous details are not important. You eventually tire of examining the graves and turn. This graveyard is an expensive one, unusually so. Given the village itself so small, how can it boast so many corpses? And there is much to explore. You walk about the perimeter of the church, casting your gaze first here then there, then everywhere, consumed as you are by your immense, all-encompassing curiosity. And as you do, you see her. She looks like an ordinary girl, small and scrawny, just like yourself, but she is much, much more than her unremarkable appearance might suggest. I really like her attire, the hair color. For some moments you observe her, hiding all the while in the shadow cast by the church, like a furtive lizard clinging against a rocky edifice, to shroud itself from the sun. There is no sunlight here at all, there is only the night sky and the stars and the moon. Beneath the moon's light, silvery implement the girl's clutching shimmers. It takes you a few moments to see what it is that the girl is clutching in her hands. It is not until you see her manipulate it, each sharp edge biting into the earth, that you understand, grave robber or just local all-purpose cemetery worker. Or maybe she's directly burying the corpses. Wonder. It's a shovel. This girl is standing in an isolated corner of the churchyard late at night and she's digging a grave. Well, you suppose she could always be digging a hole for the sake of it, but her work seems much too precise for this to be the result of mere whimsy. It is hard for you to see her face, given the distance between the pair of you, but her posture is one that speaks of supreme concentration. She moves slowly, mechanically, like a woman on a mission, driving the end of her shovel into the earth over and over. Her motions are regular enough to be repetitive. There is something hypnotic almost in the manner in which she attends to its task. Should you risk interrupting her? Do you dare? You get the feeling that she would not appreciate it. The shovel in her hands, meanwhile, is rather hefty. If she washed it, she could cause you no small amount of damage with it. But anxiety makes your skin prickle. You do not know if you should risk speaking to her when she, in her dark cloak, with her shovel, looks so very strange, but what do you have left to lose? You have come this far, it would be folly to turn back now. It is with this thought in your mind that you decide to approach this strange girl. Your footsteps are quiet, you have grown accustomed to slinking around like a cat, but they are not quite enough. The girl's senses must be finely tuned because she blinks. Then she turns, your eyes meet, and once they do, you feel your breath catch in your throat. You didn't have a clear view of the girl before, concealed as you were in the shadows, but now she is looking at you. You can tell that she is pretty. Her skin is very smooth and her hair, though obscured by a dark hood, is very fair. Her eyes, meanwhile, are a clear, cool blue like ice. Those eyes of hers, which are large with an ease, are fringed with very long, fair eyelashes. She looks as though she has stepped out of the pages of a picture book. She's simply too perfect to belong to this world. Perhaps she is some kind of vision, waking dream, a hallucination, but no, she's none of those things. The shawl she's clutching in her hands looks solid enough, its pointed tip glittering wickedly in the moonlight. You steer yourself, expecting perhaps some sort of outburst, but attention soon drains for the girl's slender shoulders. Her fingers, which once were gripping the handle of her shovel, tightly relax. Her lips curve upwards at the edges. She's smiling, and what a smile it is! A $1 million smile. It is transformative. When she smiles, she looks radiant, angelic almost. Hers is a smile that is so suffused with light that your eyes begin to prickle from it. You are so relieved you almost feel as if you could cry. It will not be the first time you have wept during this night, and neither would it be too surprising if you did. You have been through a lot. You must be exhausted. The girl holding the shawl seems to realize this because she bridges the distance between you cautiously, as one might approach a skittish cat. Then she says in a rough voice, which does not match her dainty appearance. Well, she does live in a rural village. What were you expecting? Oh, it's so good to see another person. I was afraid I was the only person left alive. The only one in the whole world. Now this stuck with the effusive greeting. Her introductory speech is drilled with exclamation marks. She's rather more personable than her apparel would make one suggest. You well-bred young lady. You cannot help but feel overwhelmed. It is your turn now to be on your guard. Anxiously, you observe the girl with the shovel, and you ask her what she means. What happened? Oh, you not know. There's an awful lot you don't know. So much, in fact, it would fill a whole encyclopedia, no, a whole library. You shake your head, ashamed at your ignorance, and the girl frowns. You mustn't be from around these parts. I guess I should have known. This village is a small one, and everybody knows everybody else. The girl's expression falls. At least they used it to back when there was still people to know. That ain't the case now, though. Not after the plague. There was a plague. So it seems that the places are sorta connected here. After all. That would certainly explain why the village, when you walked through it, was so quiet. Did everybody else succumb to this mysterious illness? That's right, it's just me here now. I've not seen another human being in a long, long time. It gets so lonely here. Now that is an interesting turn of phrase. A plague and the cannibal princess, yeah. Like a good place for some holiday. What's up, Jess? It's very nice to have a fellow visual novel enthusiast around. I hope you're enjoying the stream. Good place for some holiday. It catches inside your head like a burr. Have you heard it before? You don't have much time to ponder this, however, because the girl takes a step towards you. Oh, but where are my manners? They must have gone rusty after being on my own for so long. My apologies, miss. You look like you've come a long way. You said you are a traveler, yes? And your hands are very cold, just like ice. Would you like to come inside? Maybe have something warm to eat and to drink. My home's small, I'm afraid, and my food ain't nothing fancy, but I'd be more than willing to share. It's not every day another girl stops by, especially not one as pretty as yourself. I'm feeling very blessed. The girl laughs, a carefree, airy sort of laugh, which does not match your initial impression of her. You thought, when you saw her among the graves, that she would be more distant somehow and more mysterious. Perhaps you are mixing her up with somebody else. You're still unsure if you can trust this girl. Your invitation is an appealing one. It is much more appealing, certainly, than spending the night outdoors, in the cold, keeping on the graves. What are you, a romantic poet? Please. You make a show of pondering the girl's invitation, at the very least. You don't want to appear too eager, but your acquiescence is, alas, an inevitability. Why would you ever refuse her? She's the first friendly face you have seen all night. Without her, you would be all alone. I wanted to take a little moment to introduce myself. Happy evening, everyone, it's Gyepi. I'm a VTuber who is mainly focused on storage games, and among which I love visual novels. I also own a review blog which is currently on hiatus, where I usually did review storage games, indie games, and of course visual novels. And I did review some indie titles as I had as a goal, like to spread awareness, spread the names of the tiny games that are not very known, that are recently published. But then I decided to focus on what I mainly do enjoy, to spread the titles that I do like myself, more like than just tiny titles. So far as now, my blog is on a hiatus, as I mentioned. I do really love storage games, and I love both cute and fluffy settings, laid-back cottagecore-like atmosphere, and also I am very excited for horror games. I also do love RPG Maker horror games with jump scares and the story and whatnot. And so here we are, we're reading through It Gets So Lonely Here, the recently released free-to-play visual novel by ᴄᴏᴍᴍᴜ. I do really love her writing style, by the way. I did review some of her titles so far, they were very good. And this is a free-to-play, so I wanted to pick this one, and I was very curious because it got a horror setting. Thus I did put on the trigger warnings because it does feature violence, cannibalism, yanders, and whatnot. Yes, a rather interesting combo, here it is. So I did reach upon a bad ending and was willing to check out another one, even though so far I do believe there will be no good endings in the game, but we're gonna see for that. And I'm currently using a plush version of my Live2D alt model, because this is the alternative version of myself. I'm a fox goddess who decided to live among humans for the sake of spreading happiness, and to live as an idol and visual novel blogger. That was my first lore so far. I do own a Live2D and PNG tuber model of the first model, which is a red-haired fox. And this one over here is the alt version with dark hair and ponytail. I did not debut yet my actual Live2D model of this version, but I'm awaiting a bit for it, postponing it so far because I want to commission more thingy, so that my debut will be more like interesting overall to experience. So, let's go back to the game. Your hostess leads you to a small, humble home located but a stone's throw away from the church, built in the shadows of a twisted, towering sycamore. The girl's home is in such a state it seems a folly to even call it a home. Hovelwood to you, with a more appropriate descriptor, but when your hostess leads you inside, her eyes alive, and she says, "Here we are, home sweet home," you don't have the heart to tell her that you don't find her home very homey or very sweet. That would be incredibly rude. As a guest, you ought to be more appreciative. Half-heartedly, you look around your newfound surroundings. The ceiling is supported by wooden joists and it is perilously low. Not so much that you are in danger of bumping your head, but just enough to feel claustrophobic. There is a fire in the corner, though it is not consigned to a grate. The fire instead is blazing in the open, a circle of logs set alight like a scene from a witch's kitchen. Above the fire hangs a silvery pot suspended from one of the wooden eaves. Other objects of interest are hung from the eaves. Iron implements you take to be cooking utensils, various herbs, and strips of meat left to cure. The smell of cooking fills the air, mingled with the sharp, sour scent of unwashed bodies. How, you wonder, does your hostess clean herself? You don't see a bathtub anywhere. Perhaps she does not possess one. The girl's home is unremarkable in every regard, but it is, you suppose, better than nothing. At least there is a roof over your head, and food to put in your belly. The girl looks to the pot, suspended over the fire, which she gives a stir with a ladle. Then she brings the ladle to her lips to taste whatever concoction she has brewing within it. You can only hope that she is not, like the Weird Sisters from that famous play, brewing a broth with fenny snake fillets. Yes, I think this is just about done, the girl says to nobody in particular. She sets the ladle down, back into the pot, then looks to you and smiles. You want something? It looks as though you've come quite the long way, and you must be hungry. These words are like music to your ears, even more divine than the trumpets of God's most loyal angels. You are so hungry you could eat a horse. Not that there are any horses in the immediate vicinity. You express your interest to your hostess, who smiles in response. I thought you'd like the sound of that, hehe. Just give me a few moments. Your hostess retrieves two earthenware bowls from a cupboard with rickety hinges, into which she pours 2 hefty helpings of whatever it is she's cooking. This she serves with bread, which is so hefty it could be used as a murder weapon. Not much, I'm afraid. It's only soup and bread. It should take the edge off your appetite too. You thank your hostess for her hospitality, your stomach rumbling all the while. The soup does not look like anything you would typically consume, but the soup's poor presentation does not dissuade you. In water soup, the best kind. It is true enough that people eat first with their eyes, but when one is hungry enough, one becomes obliging enough to eat almost anything. Why else do you think that people, when stranded upon desert island, were resort to cannibalism? Humans are creatures of necessity. You like to wrap yourselves up in pretensions, but in actuality, you are not much better than animals. You're so hungry, your stomach is aching empty, that you certainly descend upon your food like an animal. Your teeth glint, your incisors gleam, and soon you have consumed all that your hostess has offered you. Your hostess watches while you eat, and she jiggles once you have finished. Did you enjoy that? Oh, you catch your hostess' gaze, suddenly abashed. You are so hungry you failed to account for her judgment. Now you have some food in your belly too, and you have been suitably warmed. Your old self-consciousness is returning. Did you not make a fool of yourself? You demur shyly, looking at your lap, fearful all the while of what your hostess might think of you. You do not want her to take against you. Fortunately for you, however, and for your fragile ego, your hostess is not the judgmental sort. She's not like the girls you grew up with. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's nice to see my food being appreciated so heartily. I know I'm not the best, but I've been practicing for a long while. I used to cook for my father all the time, you see. This remark catches your attention. Physically, you look at your hostess, your abashment over your animalistic eating habits suspended. What happened to her father? It seems a grim thing to contemplate after having eaten that. Didn't your hostess mention something about a plague? Yes, your hostess says, her voice soft now and serious. That's right, there was a plague. And what of the villagers? What of her father? They're all gone now. Gone? Yes, you see, your hostess rearranges herself upon her chair, one slender leg folded over the other. Then she begins her tale in the earnest. My family has a history. We lived here for centuries by the church, so we can tend the graveyard. Ah, so this about is centuries old then. She practiced to cook for her father until she bonked the plague out of him. It would certainly explain the dirt. My father used to prepare bodies for burial, but when he was alive, he built the coffins, and he dug the graves, and he lowered the coffins into the dirt. I know it might sound like an awful job, but somebody's got to do it. There's no sense averting our eyes from death, but when it happens to the best of us. It's a noble profession, one that's been handed down in our family for generations. My father's father was a gravedigger, and so was my father's father's father, and my father's 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 father. Digging graves is in our blood, fatherception. It's who we are. My. It was a surprisingly pretty speech coming from a girl who lives in the countryside, a girl who is without much in the way of education. It is apparent just to listen to her, and the way she slurs her syllables together, that she has never had any elocution lessons, not like you. There is a determination, however, to her, and a pride in her genealogy, which gives her a respectable aura. You can't help but be impressed. We ask your hostess, does that make her one in a long line of gravediggers? Yes, your hostess the gravedigger says. It's about right, though I was never supposed to be a gravedigger myself. She's basically a digging son, or a digging daughter. It's not a woman's profession. That's what everybody says. My father didn't mind that too. He taught me everything he knew, and then some. I might be a woman, but with plenty of upper body strength, I can dig a grave just as well as my father could, without breaking a sweat. To the despair of my mother up in heaven, I'm sure if she were still alive, she'd rather I focus on more feminine pursuits, like basket weaving or sewing, you better attract a suitor. Not that that will do much good now. There's nobody around who'd court me. Not for miles and miles. What happened to her mother? She died when I was very young during childbirth. I was only 5 years old. So we're supposed to have a sister, a brother? Oh well, you can relate to her at least upon this point. Your parents are not dead, at least, not as far as you are aware, but you have not seen them in an awfully long time. They sent you away as soon as you were old enough, and they never once bothered to check up on you. For many years there have been no letters, nor any visits. You offer the gravedigger your condolences. You do not know if they will help, but you feel like you cannot say nothing that will seem heartless. The gravedigger, however, does not seem too upset by this turn of events, because she smiles, albeit somberly. It's alright, it was ages ago, I don't remember her too well. And I've never really had the luxury of sitting around feeling sorry for myself. I had too much work to do. Around the house, you ask? That too, I was the oldest child, so it was my job. After my mother died, to manage the sweeping and the cooking, oh, and looking after all my siblings, too. You blink intrigued, then glance about your hostess' humble lodgings. You do not see any siblings in the immediate vicinity, or could it be? The gravedigger must have noticed your roving eyes. You are not being exactly subtle, because she shakes her head. I had siblings, 2 younger brothers, they're both gone now. Oh, you should have known. You apologize to the gravedigger for your lack of tact, but she does not seem upset by this faux pas. Don't apologize, not your fault. My brothers weren't long for this world anyway. The youngest he died when he was still a babe, and the oldest he died before he reached double digits. I was upset about it at the time, of course, but I've come to terms with it. There's a fleeting thing in this wicked old world. That's something you learn in this trade digging graves, I mean. I've dug graves for the elderly and the infirm, but I've also dug graves for young babes still in their swaddling clothes. That's the nature of death. It comes for all of us in the end, no matter how old we are, no matter how much money we have, no matter how good or bad we've been. It's a great equalizer. Or so I've heard, as she creeps down your spine as you listen to your hostess' speech. She's not wrong, but the inherent mortality of all humankind is not something you wish to contemplate. It is too disturbing. For the longest of times, my family was a small one. It was just my father and me, but that was fine. It was how I liked it. I was very happy, even if our lives weren't the best. I've never had any fancy clothes to wear, and we can dine on the finest of foods. In the grand scheme of things, we ain't anything that special, but I've always felt otherwise. I thought that I was blessed. We knew hardship, of course, and famine, but that's just the way life is around here. When food supplies were low, we always helped one another out. I had my father, but I also had the rest of the village who all looked after one another. And things always worked out in the end. Let's drink. At least they did. Until the plague happened. Yes, she had mentioned the plague. You had been wondering when she was going to return to that topic. You supposed that the plague is the reason that the village, as you traversed it, was so very empty? You supposed right, the plague tore through the village, I don't remember when. It feels like it was a while ago, but maybe it wasn't all that long after all. Inson as in family name based around the profession. Oh, I see, makes sense. Feels like I've been on my own for centuries, but... Your hostess' eyes begin to cloud over. She looks as though she's entrenched within her own memories. What could she be remembering? You have never seen a plague before, though you have heard of them in your history lessons. Your history professor was quite enthusiastic about the subject. He talked about piles of dead bodies stacked up on the streets, and stacked up in the wooden carts come to take them away with no shortage of aplomb. She was a strange woman, your history professor. Indeed, it is not something to be excited about. The plague came on very suddenly, there was no warning. One day everyone was fine. Next, they were all dead. It is with no small amount of anxiety that you eye the gravedigger, then you ask worriedly, Surely they could not all have died. Is that not an exaggeration? Oh, if only I wish I was exaggerating, but it's the truth, honest to God. The people in the village died, one after the other, just like that. I saw what the plague does to people firsthand. My father was one of the first people who caught it. I think one of the bodies which came true, that we buried, must have had it. Not that I know for certain, I'm just guessing still. My father didn't have an easy time of it. His skin turned all grey and clammy, and he complained of a horrible fever. There were night sweats and stomach cramps. And then there were the boils. The boils? Pustules, they were the size of eggs, and they were full of pus. Oh my goodness. When they burst, it stunk. The whole house was full the stink of death. The wise woman of the village came to see if she could be of any use, but it was no good. My father was too far gone already. She took one look at him, lying on his deathbed, and she shook her head. She said she didn't want to get any closer. I can't say I blame her. It was a ghastly sight. I didn't appreciate it at the time too. It felt like she was turning her back on us. I wished her ill. I remember that after she left. Until a few days passed and she fell sick too. Then I felt bad for cursing her. I couldn't help but worry if it was all my fault. It's still I know but. The gravedigger closed her eyes. She seems to squeeze her lids together until her lashes melt like flecks of fallen snow. Her shoulders, which are very slender, are shaking. It looks as though she might at any moment fall apart. It wasn't long after that the rest of the village fell ill. They all had the same symptoms as my father, the clammy skin, and the fever, and the boils. The boils grew, then they burst, and then they died in screaming, stinking agony. My father died too, only 3 days after he fell ill, but I think even that was 3 days too many. I didn't want my father to die, of course. I did everything I could do to help him, but it was all pointless. None of my herbal salves had any impact. I couldn't make a blind bit of difference. All I did was stand about his bedside, telling him it'd be alright, until his eyes sank into his skull, like 2 black stones, and his mouth dried out. During that last day before he died, he might have been a corpse already. He didn't look at me. He didn't speak to me. Just lay in bed with his eyes closed, groaning. I never wished any ill on my father before, but during those moments The gravedigger squeezes her hands, which are resting upon her black-clad lap, into fists. Trembles. Then, in a voice throbbing with awful emotion, she says, I wish he just died. Well, based on her anecdote, it does not sound like she had overly long to wait. I wonder if she would consider that a silver lining. I'm gonna stream maximum 10 minutes more and then we'll end this evening stream. Because we did stream 2 hours and a half so far. And I'm a bit tired. We'll still continue tomorrow evening this game. Wonder if she would consider that a silver lining. No, perhaps not. The gravedigger is still shaking. She will not cry, will she? You hope not. Awkwardly, you look at the gravedigger. You're not sure how to soothe her, but you know you must make some sort of an effort, even if it is a token one. You shift upon your chair, which feels very cold and hard beneath your tights. Then you say very softly that you are sorry. It is not much, but it is all you can think of saying. You had thought initially that your situation was comparable to that of the gravedigger, but now you can see that this is not the case. Your suffering has far outstripped your own. Not that suffering is a competition, of course. Your apology feels inadequate to your ears, largely because it is, but the gravedigger seems not to mind it. She is very big-hearted, that girl. She smiles at you so, no matter how foolish you might be. You really deserve such kindness. Oh, again with the apologies. It's alright, like I said, you didn't cause any of this. I'm not upset at you, I'm just recounting what happened is all. I do wonder too, why I never fell sick myself. I thought I was going to die, so I'd already prepared for the Reaper to come and take me away. But maybe he wasn't interested, maybe he'd already satiated his appetite on all the others. That might be, he thought. He'd have to leave me alive for practicality's sake. With my father gone, who else would tend to the dead? I was the only person left by the end of it all, so I had to bury the people in the village. They're all resting peacefully now under the earth. The plague can't reach them. On the one hand, I'm happy for them they were able to escape from all their suffering. Then I think about all the people I've lost too. The gravedigger tenses. Then she sniffs. When I think about the kindly washerwomen who helped me scrub the mud and the dirt from my clothes. So this village did have its fair share of washerwomen after all. It would seem your earlier insistence upon this particular point was not without merit. And the handsome young farmhands who used to flirt with me. The priests who preached at the church who told us wonderful tales of paradise and the children who would skip stones on the lake and play hopscotch in the streets. I can't help but feel so lonely. The gravedigger's eyes begin to shine when she has finished her address with tears, but she does not let them fall. She is being very brave, much more so than you are. Anxiously, you extend a hand towards her, meaning to what? Give her a hug. You don't know her well enough. Pat her head. That will be infantilizing. Squeeze her hand. Perhaps that could be misconstrued as a romantic overture, and that is the last thing you want. You endured more than your fair share of teasing over that. You sit there for a few moments, paralyzed by indecision, as the gravedigger poorly suppresses her sniffles. And then you let your arm drop back to your side, your hand rests upon your lap, as useful as damp kindling. You don't know what to do with it. You do know that you ought to say something to show that you heard her plight and that you care. You don't know what this something should be, however, no words could ever console the gravedigger. They would never be enough. They can offer some balm, however, to the bereaved, and so after a pause just long enough to be awkward, you offer your condolences. What else can you say? Oh no, the gravedigger replies, wiping a few tears away with the back of her arm. It's alright. I've grown used to it, really, being on my own, I mean. It ain't so bad, really. And I'm not alone now, at least. I've met you. You'll keep me company, won't you? Oh, what can you say to that? You aren't callous enough to trample this poor girl's hopes, are you? You know full well yourself how awful that feels. You can do nothing but nod, a response which makes the girl smile, more widely still. That's wonderful. I know you're just a traveler who's passing through, but I can offer you bread and board until you leave. I have food enough, and a spare bedroom. I can make it up for you right now. You must be tired after your long journey. Just give me a moment. The gravedigger rises to her feet in a flurry of excitement and retreats. You watch as she departs, a little too eager to please and frown. The girl's home is a small, humble one, with a low ceiling and slanted walls. You can't imagine such a small dwelling possessing a spare bedroom. This so-called spare bedroom is, in all likelihood, the room her father slept in before the plague carried him off. You do not think that you would much like to spend the night in the room of a dead man, but what choice do you have? You're tired, wretchedly so. Why, it is all you can do to keep your eyes open. You were running through the forest desperate to escape your pursuer. You had no thought in mind beyond finding some safe sanctuary in which you could recuperate. Now that you have found said sanctuary, it would be unreasonable to find faults with it. You ought to learn to be more thankful for what you have. There are many, many people in the world with less. You rise and follow the gravedigger when she has finished her preparations to her so-called spare bedroom, which is every bit as cramped as you feared it would be. At least there is a bed, which comes as something of a relief. The rest of these lodgings are so humble you were half expecting a straw pallet. Asserted as you might be, you cannot lie to yourself. You have no desire to sleep among the hay like an animal. You're gonna hit the hay. The sheets of the bed are clean, too. A fact you discern with a cursory glance, so you will not be expected to sleep upon the sweet-soaked linen of a plague-ridden man after all. This really is your lucky day. I got you this too, the gravedigger says, somewhat shyly, as she hands you a folded gown. To sleep in, I thought it might come in handy. Your own clothes are, a little shabby. You can say that again, your skirt is covered in mud, and the hem is torn and ragged. This nightgown is one of my old ones, so it suffered a bit of wear and tear, but I hope it felt alright. It's clean if nothing else. You accept the nightgown from your benefactress with words of thanks. You want to sound appropriately appreciative, but you cannot mask your fatigue. Weariness overcomes you, and you yawn, a fact the gravedigger does not fail to notice. Oh, begging your pardon, I don't want to keep you. I'll be making myself scarce. If you need anything tall, don't hesitate to ask. I'll be happy to help. The gravedigger bows her head to you like a drudge, and hurries off, closing the door behind her with a thud. Wherever you are, you'll soon find that you rather miss your hostess' company. In the face of other good-natured smiles, you could almost forget all of the hardships you have hitherto endured. In her absence, however, your lodgings feel almost unbearably cold and inhospitable. You suppress a shudder and unclothe yourself. You work as quickly as you are able, but your fingers are cold, and they fumble with the buttons of your blouse. It takes you more time than you would like to complete this endeavor, but you soon have your shirt and your skirt dispensed with. You're too tired to fold them neatly, so you don't bother to fold them at all. Instead, you cast them carelessly upon the floor, as defiant as a sulky child, and pull on your new nightgown. Your hostess' earlier warnings were apt enough. It is quite worn, but it fits well enough. It's more comfortable, at least, than your old uniform. You have endured worse, newly dressed and ready for bed. You loosen your hair from your braids and settle down among the sheets. It is with a sigh you extinguish the weakly flickering candlelight which burns on your bedside, with another sigh that you lay your head down upon your pillow. Though physically exhausted, you have to wonder whether you will be able to sleep at all. And recall your previous dash to the forest in such vivid detail, your heart is still pounding. Fear has yet to leave you. Perhaps it will never leave you. Your terror was such, it almost feels as though it has suffused itself into your bones, to your very being. But your exhaustion is greater than your worldly anxieties, and soon it claims you. Your eyelids fall shut, and your breathing inevitably begins to even out. It is not long until you are spiraling through dark, deep abyss, lost in Morpheus' kingdom. But your sleep, despite your varied state, is not as restorative as you had hoped. Your imagination has always been overactive. Even at the conservatoire, you were frequently beset by dreams of the most vivid nature. Thank you for the hat pat. Bonk time. Quite the bonk. Dreams that you have this night, lying beneath unfamiliar sheets upon an unfamiliar bed, are no less intense than usual. In your dreams, you are back at the conservatoire, the place where this adventure of yours began. Being bonked while sleeping. Oh my. You are wearing the crisp white blouse you once discarded and your grey, unremarkable skirt. Your hair is tied and braids, and your eyes are done to it, forever focused upon your feet. You tried not to look at your classmates, and you thought yourself fortunate if they did not look at you in return. You did not want anybody to notice you until that awful winter that is, where everybody stopped paying attention to you for good. Nobody tried to trip you when you walked past them in the hallways. Nobody in fact so much as glanced at you. All of a sudden, there were no malicious whispers, no wicked laughter, no pulled hair, no thrown objects. You were giddy with relief. At first, over this newfound means of tormenting you that your classmates had devised. But this little game that of complete and utter disregard continued and on and on and on, as the days grew shorter and the nights grew longer. As the time passed, you began to fret as to the state of your own corporality. Thank you for the hydrate. Of it. About getting sore. Better. Thank you. As the time passed, you began to fret as to the state of your own corporality. Would anybody still see you? Did you even exist at all? Then, at long last, you found it by accident. The source of all your woes. One of the girls had directed the forest, for which you were sometimes bidden to jog for PE class, beneath the shade cast by an old oak tree. As a makeshift tombstone, a small, meager monumentum made of stone, on which one of your classmates had hewn a name. Your name. You knew at once, as you stood there, standing beneath the shade of an ancient tree, that this was the reason behind your classmates' silence. This was why they hid for many months, been ignoring you so shadowously. They had buried you. In their hearts, you had already died. Your eerie dreams notwithstanding, you sleep more comfortably than you had anticipated. When you awake the following morning to the sweet chirping of birdsong, you feel well rested, albeit woozy. Your head is aching. It is nothing, however, that a cup of hot tea cannot fix. I'm gonna end the stream here. Thank you so much, Sweet Sambands, for keeping me company this evening. It was very nice having this visual novel reading session together with you. And now we're gonna see whom to raid. Thank you. I'm happy to. I'll be trying, as mentioned, I'll possibly stream every single day. Have to reach good environment, but also to grow as a content creator, as VTuber overall. Cool. And possibly I was willing to stream twice per day, but that will not be like a schedule, that won't be a fixed promise to you. But at the very least, I'll do my best to stream every day. So let's see. Night, I'm heading off to bed. It was nice. Have a good night. Thank you for stopping by. We're into the nose time. My fellow Bam Bam friend, ⴰᴍᴜᴜ aka Elio, seems to be streaming Umineko right now, so we're gonna raid ⴰᴍᴜᴜ. Surprise him a bit. Let's begin the raid. Okay, we're gonna see each other tomorrow once again. Take care and have a good night. Have too many nightmares. Bye bye.